Hi, folks. Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about and contrast the way the media covered the very flimsy, very flaky misdemeanor charges against the candidate at that time, but former President Donald Trump in New York. This was a Letitia James, the black attorney general who based her whole career on "I'm going to get Donald Trump," which for someone who's meant to be a completely impartial, rule of law, due legal process attorney general should in itself have been a disqualification, but instead she got installed by the Democrat Party machine as Attorney General for New York, and then in combination with Alvin Bragg, the black activist, Democrat hack stooge goon, and the activist judges and so on, activist juries and prosecutors, and the whole thing in New York was a completely rigged outcome against Trump. Now, they were liaising with and working with the Democrat Party establishment and even the goons in the White House who were running the government. I mean, Biden didn't know what day it was. So it was a very organized, coordinated campaign to get Trump. And they were actually quite clear about it, saying, look, if you pull out of the presidential race, we have no interest in you. Our only interest in this case is to try and prevent you from becoming a plausible candidate for president, the office of president. So we want to be able to get to a situation where we can convict you of something, anything. It doesn't matter. We'll make something up if we have to, which they did. But we just want to be able to say, put it in the media, convicted felon. Not only is he Hitler, he's convicted felon, which, by the way, was a talking point. I was having lunch a while ago with quite a senior Australian judge. And when the subject came up and his comment was, well, Trump is a convicted felon. And that's a judge, for fuck's sake, who's very left-leaning and a judge, along with others, by the way, who commented that how presidential Kamala Harris is. So that'll give you an idea of the standard of discernment that this judge has, and others, by the way, in the public service in Australia. But nonetheless, Trump, or candidate Trump as he then was the leading candidate, Republican candidate for the office of president. And to go after somebody on, very creatively contrived misdemeanor charges for the leading candidate for president, didn't anyone see a problem with that? Isn't that interfering with democracy? But the media pile-on against Trump was total. And I got out a piece from a couple of years ago where the article's 26 paragraphs long, and there's only one sentence that says that Trump denies the allegations, and one more sentence that says that Trump claims that it's a political witch hunt. So that's it. So let's just say it's one. So the 26 paragraphs, 25 are talking about how bad he is and the terrible things. Gosh, be put in prison for 1 million years. And they only quote people who are opposed to Trump. And so Billy Bob says, they don't say that Billy Bob's a screaming Democrat hack activist, but Billy, and they'll just say that he was chairman of some committee or something. Billy Bob says that nobody wants a revisit of Nazi Germany and Hitler and the swastika and all this, which is then gleefully reported by one of the biggest media outlets in the world. So any mitigating circumstance, anything that would suggest or imply that it was just a political, ideological hatchet job against Trump, none of that's mentioned. Instead, there's just this huge pile on. And that was the coverage of them going after then candidate Trump, but former president. The guy's the former president and the leading candidate for next election, and somehow you condone, and not only you're satisfied with, but are gleefully gloating about going after the leading candidate on the basis of misdemeanors, bookkeeping misdemeanors. Now, the other thing about the Trump case was there was no actual party, aggrieved party. Now, this in itself is very, very rare. There has to be an aggrieved party that says, well, hey, I missed out here, I wasn't paid, or I lost money, or something, an aggrieved party. But there was no aggrieved party. Now, that in itself is very unusual for a court case. That means the government is bringing a case against the leading political opposition candidate where there is no actual aggrieved party. There's a determination that 10 years ago there was some sort of a bookkeeping thing but again, there was no aggrieved party. So that was very, very unusual sort of case to bring. And you could only bring it in a completely activist atmosphere where you could control, prosecution, jury, judge, and you could control the whole process, which of course the Democrats had that level of control. And by the way, believed they were almost obliged to subvert the law in every imaginable way in order to achieve a political ideological outcome, which shows just how debased the legal system has become in the United States and elsewhere around the Western world. The globalists cannot win with a completely impartial legal system where the judges are completely impartial, where the law is absolutely codified and is interpreted purely based on its legal merit and the merits of the evidence. The globalists cannot win in that environment. They must subvert the law in order to prevail, and they know that, and of course it's exactly what they're doing. Now, of course, the script has flipped, and President Trump is then candidate. Now President Trump is in office, and the Attorney General that was prominent, if not the leading, cheer squad leader in chasing and going after Trump, she's now herself been caught out having committed mortgage fraud, which is more or less what they were chasing Trump over. Now, normally, like mortgage fraud like this, now in this case, Letitia James, it's argued, that's yet to be heard in a court. Letitia James derived financial advantage from this by claiming that what was a primary residence or not, what was a residence she lived in, and what was being rented out to a third party. So now, none of this would be, I don't think it's earth-shattering stuff, but that's the sort of thing they were using. Anything, let's find anything to try and go chase after Trump on. So now she's the subject of the same type of lawfare. I mean, if you want to call it lawfare. No one's arguing. I don't think her defense is she didn't do it. She says, it was a mistake. I didn't really mean it. So she's just trying to bullshit her way out of it and go, well, I'm a black woman, so you can't do it to me. But she's being held to the same standard that she would apply to Trump. So she's getting indicted and charged and so on. Now, the 23 paragraph article that's done by, again, one of the biggest media organizations in the world, the 23 paragraph has 21 fucking paragraphs in support of Letitia James. She did nothing wrong, and it's just all Trump's just out to get her. It's she's just an innocent victim, and I'm a black woman, and all this sort of stuff. She's playing all the race, and they're helping her do it, by the way, the media. So only 2 paragraphs, both of which are 1 sentence long, only 2 paragraphs talk about the charges against her and that what the process will be, that it goes to a court or a grand jury or whatever it was. So they're running heavy protection. Nothing's legitimate about this. Nothing legitimate at all. She's an innocent black woman being unfairly persecuted by white supremacy, Hitler, Nazi, fascist, swastika, da da da, and the complete opposite of how they handle. Now, I would like a media that would report on the facts. And if a media that was reporting, they'd have said, well, the case against Trump brought by Letitia James was just total bullshit, and was just the work of activist hack goon stooges coordinated out of the Biden goon squad White House. That's what it should have reported. Even if that wasn't the case, they said, well, this is misdemeanor stuff that has passed through the statute of limitations anyway. Why are they bothering with this? If that's all you've got, then the guy's squeaky clean. If this is all you can find, that should have been the coverage. But instead, they piled on with, again, gloating and with great glee, and convicted film. And but now, when it's one of their own, Letitia James, who's now in the firing line, then they're doing the complete reverse. Nothing legitimate, nothing to see here. It's just a political, hatchet job and so on. But it just goes to show you just how disingenuous the media is and how determined they are to play partisan politics and not report the news at all. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.